What is going on, guys? XpertFusion here, and today I am here with the TheAireaidLord. Is that how you pronounce your...
TheAireaidLord. You're close.
Yes, there you go. That is good enough. So today we're doing a discussion-type video regarding the Henry spoilers, or rumors, I guess you can say, about whether or not he is going to die this season. And I already made a video on this talking about it. I was kind of a little pissed in some ways and really concerned about the future of this kind of character, because I was really looking forward to the future of him, considering I'm a really big fan of Comic Carl, and he's obviously taking over a lot of Carl's storyline going forward just by the past few episodes. So I really didn't want him to, die, and these rumors are kind of pointing at that. So
yeah, I had seen your video for context. All of us in the Walking Dead community, I think we're following this new storyline, especially season 9, quite closely, because Angela Kang has had big responsibilities. I mean, she had to get rid of Rick, and 5 episodes in, a 6-year time jump, transform the show, and then try to adapt these comic storylines the best she possibly could with the characters that she has left. And one of those is Henry, of course. And so far what we've seen is that they're setting up this Henry Lydia stuff quite nicely, and it's really in succinct with how the comics handles Carl's storyline, because for those of you who don't know, obviously it's Carl who has the relationship with her. He's the one who's in the jail cell. He hears her, talks to her, and then when she's handed over to Alpha, he runs off to go find her. And that's where we're leading into tomorrow for episode 12, where Henry is trying to find her. So everything right now is on par for following the comics. Mm-hmm. That could change after tomorrow night. I don't know.
The one major thing I noticed that was very different from both storylines was the one big connector between Carl and Lydia in the comics was Carl's eye, getting shot out, because that's why Carl was so wanting to keep Lydia, because she was the first person to actually kind of understand and kind of accept the eye thing. But I think they're doing a good job in the show because of how Henry's second mom is Carol. Of course, she was, she was kind of in the domestic abuse situations, and obviously Henry knows about that and cares about Carol a lot. And so I guess Henry hearing Lydia about her abusive stories and stuff, that's a good connector in my opinion. I don't think they needed the same thing from the comics, but I did notice a lot of people were saying the show doesn't really make sense because it doesn't have that same sort of thing that the comic had. But I think they're doing a good job of
I think they swapped it over quite nicely. I think exactly what you said. I think the Carol stuff with the abuse is the connecting point. In the comics, it was Carl trying to find his identity and try to fit in, feel like his injury didn't make him a freak. Mm-hmm. And I think Lydia saw him just for who he was. And so there was in the comics, there's this scene where she licks his eyeball in a very seductive way, and then they literally hook up after. It's very quick. The thing about the comics is that it's always at a brisk pace. They go very quickly. And so it was hey, I met you. Hey, I'm going to lick your eyeball. Hey, let's just fuck on top of this hill. It was just
Lydia was a freaking... Even if they kept Carl alive, I guarantee you they wouldn't have done that same scene. They wouldn't have.
Mm-mm.
That's just...
No, I just And here's the thing about Carl, and I don't know if this is the unpopular opinion, because I see this all the time on my videos and other Instagrammers that I've talked to. I see in comment sections, it should be Carl. Carl should be. Let me tell you something, all right? I don't know if you saw the article about Chandler Riggs' acting.
I did.
Where he was knocking on his own acting because he took 10 AP classes. His attention was diverted from acting. And he even said, if I stayed on that show, I think they should have just recasted Carl. And it's that's not a great thing, considering your character is the guy that's meant to pass the torch moving forward. Do you think Gimple knew some of this? I know they killed Carl off to make the Negan storyline make sense, because in the comic it makes no sense. Rick, it's I'm gonna kill you, Negan, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, and then in the comics he's just save his life. Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
So Gimple, there's an interview where Gimple says he got written into a corner. He's like, Kirkman, like, how do we explain Rick keeping Negan alive? Especially in the show, it's way worse. Like, they treat him like dog shit. The Saviors treat the Rick and the group like dog shit. So he's like, all right, well, we need, like, what's the one thing, the one person who could change Rick's mind? And it was Carl. But it worked nicely because I don't think, like, the way Chandler Riggs was going, by the way, also, he was very old. In the comics, Carl's a lot younger.
Yeah, he'd be like 23 right now and something like that. So
he would be if he still lived. Also, and I said this in one of my vlogs on my channel, he was with Lydia before not Lydia, Enid. Yeah. He was with Enid before he died. So, what, does he cheat on her? Do they break up after 6 years? Like, they already had an aesthetic. Like, Carl never had that romance in the comics. Like, he had flirted with Sophia, who's still alive. Like, they had flirted a little bit, but he never had a relationship. And Lydia was, like, his first relationship. In the show, he forms a bond with Enid, kind of like Lydia in a sense. Like, when they get to Alexandria, Enid is very standoffish. She's to herself. She's kind of a wild one, being out in the woods where everyone's out inside in Alexandria, very pampered. And they're both outdoorsy people, and they form a bond. Like, I think that's where our Lydia story is for the TV series. If you wanted your Carl thing, like, it's Carl and Enid from the earlier seasons. Like, people don't realize that, but that's what it was. And it would feel like they were doing a duplicate if they had Lydia and Carl in the show, in my opinion. So I think Henry adds some new life to it, you know?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of both when Gimple was deciding to kill off Carl. I think it was that he doesn't think he can handle the future of the show, obviously. I think because he knew Rick was going to leave. Like, they kind of knew back, because I remember Andrew Lincoln was saying stuff about wanting to leave. He was planning it like season 4 or something. He was talking about it, and he decided season 8 would be the final season, but then they decided, okay, let's just continue it 5 more episodes into season 9. And I think Gimple was like, I really don't want Chandler Riggs leading the show in the future. I just don't think he could do it. But he obviously wouldn't say that. You know, he's not going to say that to a kid, right? And so he also thought of the idea, well, it would work really well. I do think they made a mistake with not really bringing up the whole Carl moral thing until season 8, because in season 7, it ended with, obviously, Negan almost killing Carl. So that kind of felt inconsistent, but I was all right with it. You know, they made it work, and they made a very emotional death that impacted Rick keeping Negan alive, which, yes, they could have done different ways, but I think it was the best way. There was some guy who made a video, his name's Study the Craft. He made a really good video about discussing, like, the narrative side behind that decision and why it worked so well. I thought it was a really good video. And yeah, I think it just works a lot better with Henry. I think Matthew Lintz is doing a really good job, in my opinion. A lot of people have been saying bad things about him, but I haven't had that, like, cringy moment that Chandler Riggs has done a few times in the past, where it's just like that was a terrible way to deliver your lines. But, you know, not to say Chandler Riggs was never good. He had a few good performances, like even in season 3, which he was much younger. I think he did a great job when Lori died. I thought he did a fantastic job, even as a kid. And then his last episode, obviously, he did a good job. But
yes, really, well, that was the irony behind it, because he had said, and he even said in his post, like, he thought his earlier stuff and his last episode was his best stuff, because he wasn't bogged down by schoolwork, and he didn't have all these conflicting things. And I think there was just a conflict for him personally about, like, you know, where he was going, and he was on this show that was perpetually just going on, and I guess, you know, he was questioning at some points his role in it. So, but to get back to the Henry stuff, so far as we mentioned, we're on pace for everything that's kind of going on, the way Comic Carl takes on that role. Now, how do we want to address because there's a group of individuals, I guess I'll bring this up. There's a group of individuals, I'm assuming you're aware of them, the Spoiling Dead. Okay. I don't know if you know this. So this group doesn't like me. They've banned my IP. They've publicly listed videos. I have a couple videos where I've ranted about them. They know that I don't like them. It's mutual. It's a mutual feeling. I just don't think that they should be the all-seeing eyes of Sauron.
I agree. I do.
They don't work for AMC. They don't work. There is nothing different from Ninja Pancake to me. We're both fans of the show. We both have jobs and lives outside of the show, and we watch it as part of an entertainment that adds value. And then we, do have fans and forums and stuff like that adds contribution. But why is it okay? So you have like an uncle or a dad or just some dude who's on the inside giving you pictures and all this stuff. Chandler Riggs had to plead with these people to not spoil his death. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
it's like an actor who is making money through AMC. Like, he should not have to plead. And even Ninja Pancake's like, well, this is what should have happened with the Glenn and Abraham death. If AMC hadn't done a lawsuit and just talked to us, it's like, dude, you don't work for them. They don't owe you an explanation. They don't owe you a letter that says, dear so-and-so, please stop doing this. Like, because they've tried to tighten it up. It used to be very public on Facebook, but now they have forums that are under very hard lock and key. But that doesn't matter. Like, I still see comments on my videos and from others who are part of those forums who then disseminate this information.
It's ruined prediction videos and like prediction theories and stuff because everyone just already knows what's going to happen, and they use that as predictions, and it's like,
it's an attack on videos that you and I make. That is the quintessential reason why I hate that group, because how can I make a vlog or a prediction or any type of video hyping up something for you guys if there's already a group that knows what's going to happen, and in the worst way possible? Like, months before, you have photos of the cast, because then they can figure it out. They could say, oh, well, this person hasn't been on set for 4 months, so therefore they're dead. Like, that was how they guessed Glenn and Abraham's death. Michael Cutlitz and Stephen Yeun weren't on set beyond like a few days, and they're like, okay, we can pretty much say that they're dead because they're not in future episodes.
Yeah, and the way they shared that was horrible. I actually got banned from commenting on any of their Facebook posts because after the Glenn and Abraham death, they literally posted it just directly on their Facebook. I was just scrolling on Facebook, and I just see, like, who dies in this episode, and it's just Glenn and Abraham right on the bottom. I was like, all right, you literally didn't even try to hide it, or at least put, like, spoiler warning or something. So I led them a really mean message, got banned from commenting, but, I don't agree with, spoiling it, because, like, although you keep them, separate in forums now, which is better, it's still, like, people are going to talk about them and comments and everywhere. Like, I've not had one death not spoiled for me since, like, I think Beth maybe. Like, every other death since then, because I'm always on social media, I'm always on YouTube for Walking Dead stuff, so it's impossible for me to avoid it. Like, it's impossible.
Yeah. There's an entire YouTube channel. I don't know if you know the PT channel. His whole channel is based around taking those spoilers from the Spoiling Dead and then making videos about it. So it's like a new level of predictions, because you got our predictions where we know nothing, and then there's his predictions based on information of what's going to happen. It's like, why are there two different levels of prediction videos here? Like, I didn't think we were breaking it down like this, man. Like,
it's bad. So what was the information you got from this guy?
So to lead in, my lead in for bringing them up was, so the way this started was that there was a rumor that, here's the brief rumor, okay? And spoilers, again, I'm going to say spoilers. If you guys don't want to know this, you don't need to know it, all right? But I'm going to just say that I don't think this is a spoiler, because he's not dying, all right? They're wrong. I'm going to just say that. They're wrong. You can hold my feet to the fire on this, all right? Their rumor was that Henry is at the Whisperer camp. Now, we know this is true based on previews for next week's episode, where he's going after Lydia. And you've seen the preview where Beta, like, takes him and throws him on the ground. Alpha's like, who are you? So, okay, we know he's going to be there. All right. So the rumor is that he is at the Whisperer camp. And then in episode 15, he escapes the Whisperer camp and tries to go to the fair at the kingdom. And along the way, he gets killed. Now, there's no specifics or information of any kind. And originally, it was he gets wounded, and then he dies. And then it was originally, he just gets wounded, and that's it. And as of right now, it's unconfirmed. Like, right now, they don't know. And there was another post by one of their forum members that said this was a ruse to divert people away from who actually dies, being King Ezekiel. That was a rumor because they were trying to kind of cover up the fact that Ezekiel wasn't going to make it. So they were using this whole Henry thing to shroud that, to shroud the fact that Matt Lintz had signed on for season 10. There's an image. I'm going to put up the image because I had saved it, and I'll put it as an overlay to my video. But the guy just goes on a long-winded post where he says that the information, the timeline didn't match up, and that people who were in favor of Carol and Ezekiel's relationship were spreading the Henry rumor to, like, say, no, Ezekiel doesn't die. There's no way. It's like, well, he dies in the comics in the Pike, so I would be pretty inclined to believe that that's how he dies in the show.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised about that at all, because AMC has done this stuff before. Like the deaths with Negan, they filmed a death for every single character. Like, didn't they do that to try to divert expectations or something? But obviously it didn't really work at all.
Have you seen the Maggie one? Oh my god!
Yeah, I saw that. That was I saw that before the episode came out, and I thought it was actually what's going to happen, and I was literally like shitting my pants. I was like, oh my god. Like, they killed
brutal
Maggie?
as fuck, man. He cracks her over the head and she spits blood up at it. But the thing is, there's no other footage about that. That was
yeah,
like
I thought I would see more, but yeah.
It's like a leaked behind the scene clips that they just didn't. Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, I did see that before the episode came out too, and I was like, wait, what? Like, So
that wouldn't surprise me if they did this with trying to diverting expectations, which I hope that's the case, obviously, because I really want Henry to survive.
Well, I have a theory as to what happens, and I think it would fit up with the timeline. I think that so this is my theory, you can give yours. I think that he discovers Alpha's plan to infiltrate the fair, and he tries to get there in time to warn everybody, but then he gets wounded, either by a walker, a beta, some other whisperer. He gets wounded, and the tragic piece of it is that if he hadn't been hurt, he would have been able to warn everybody in time. So then, like, when Ezekiel dies, like, he's distraught over his dad's death, and it's even more dramatic. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I actually like that a lot. That sounds like something I would see happen. I do think it's going to be similar to the comics in terms of how... Actually, that sounds really good now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, and then Daryl, Carol, Michonne. I don't know how Michonne and Carol get involved in it. I'm assuming Daryl's going to go after them and try to talk to them about what's happening. Maybe he doesn't save Henry, because I don't know. Is he going to save Henry this episode or next episode? Or is it going to be a failure and then he's not going to get out to episode 15 and he's going to have to get out on his own? And is it going to be the same with Lydia being disowned by Alpha, like it happened in the comics? Like, Alpha saying, Lydia, you can leave. I don't want you here anymore because you're showing emotion. You're being weak. And
yeah, these next two episodes are going to be very big indicators of whether we're if we can say for sure, because we see at the end of episode. Did you see the preview where it's nighttime and they throw a knife on the ground and Lydia supposedly has to make a decision to kill him and she's upset and stuff. So how does he get out of that situation? Does Lydia vouch for him and then Alpha says, oh, you're weak or whatever, and then how does that work out? Do Daryl and Connie catch up to them? See, I mean, we're doing this vlog before 12, so we don't know what happens there.
I think it's going to be similar to that. It's going to be Lydia. She's not going to do it. She's going to tell Alpha, I'm not doing it. She's going to be crying and stuff, and Alpha's going to be like, all right, you know what, just leave. But I just don't think she just let Henry and Alpha leave like that, So I think Daryl and Connie might catch up, and maybe they'll save Henry. I think there might be a little bit of a fight going down. I hope that happens, because I really want an intense battle between them this episode. That would be kind of cool.
But Lydia and Henry have to have some sort of what is it, some sort of Romeo and Juliet duel where they know it's forbidden love in amongst their enemies kind of thing. That'd be weird. But yeah, no, it's a decent theory. The thing is, I guess the last portion that we can kind of speak of here is why it wouldn't make sense to kill him off, because you ruin that whole comic storyline with Lydia, because so much of her going back to civilization and in abandoning the Whisperer principles is through her love interest, which Carl and then Henry in this case. And how would you because people will blame her, and that's what happens in the comic book. When the Pikes happen, like everyone's wants to destroy the Whispers, and I remember there's one line that's iconic where Eugene is like, "Oh, we have her daughter" or something. Like they still think that having her daughter is some type of wild card. And some people think that maybe hurting her or doing something to her will be able to get vengeance on Alpha. So who's going to protect? Like Daryl would be the only one. Like if he becomes some sort of like surrogate father, because that would be your other alternative, that you kill the romance completely and you just have this, father-daughter, almost like Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us kind of dynamic. And that's what you carry on with. But
I have three main reasons. Three main reasons for why killing Henry would be a horrible decision. So, first one is Henry as a character, he needs to learn from mistakes and kind of overcome them. Like, you can't just have Henry, because ultimately the Pikes, that's going to be his fault. Obviously, going out there and going after them, that's going to ultimately lead to this happening. So, you can't just have him die alongside it. That would be like Daryl dying by Negan after he punched Negan in the face in 701.
Yeah.
They did it a better way, which having Glenn die, obviously, and that Daryl has to live with that, and he has to deal with it. And same thing should happen to Henry. He should have to live with it and then have to overcome it. That's how characters work. You can't just have him do something stupid and then die. I mean, you can for like minor characters, but Henry, honestly, in the past 4 episodes, has shown he is up there with main characters now. I think they're trying to do that, obviously. It takes away any redemption that he could possibly do. And the big thing for me, too, is it's just huge repetition. Like, Carol has already lost, like, 3 kids. Like, having her lose another one is just repetitive. Having her lose a love interest would be very different for her character, and I think would definitely push her in a different direction. But having her lose another kid, we've seen this happen 3 times already. So that's a huge thing. And then obviously the third reason, you're missing a lot of potential for the whole Lydia thing and Henry and what happens in the comics with Lydia and Carl. You're missing a lot of that. Like that really awesome sequence in the comics during the Whisper War at the hilltop where Lydia and Carl were like fighting side by side against Whispers. You missed on stuff like that. It's a lot of stuff in the comics that happens.
I ordered that comic issue yesterday. I have it here physically. I want Cassidy McClincy to sign it because there's the image where she's like kicking the zombie and there's like a fire in the background. Charlie Adler did an amazing job with that drawing, and I was like, this is like quintessential badass Lydia, like shooting her, like it's the moment like she like turns against her people, like they're asking her to come back and she's like no, and everything's on fire, people getting shot and stabbed. It's pretty epic. But I hear what you're saying. And my other angle is this is the first season the new actor has been on the show. Because think about it, he only started in season 9, episode 6. Before that, it was his little brother. And you're giving like Matt Lintz like what, 1 season, half a season, because that's barely any time to even be on a show. And you're killing the future. Because think of the characters that are like Judith and Henry are our 2 young coming of age characters that are leading the charge here. We've seen this with Judith and her relationship with Negan, little ass kicker with the python and stuff. I mean, she's getting good attention, but you're putting so much emphasis on this character. Like you're building all this stuff up. Like, why have them be in a romantic relationship? Why have them kiss in the most recent episode? Why do all this stuff if you're just going to go in the opposite direction? Because then you build your audience up for failure. It's like, oh, well, that's great. That was all built up for nothing. Like,
yeah, exactly. They spend way too much time on Henry in the past few episodes for them to just kill him off.
Right. That's really what it comes down to. Why would you spend this much time on a character if he's just going to be gone? Like in a few, like what how does that make any sense? Like that's quintessentially kind of what we're saying here. Like you don't.
And after the huge backlash a lot of the community has given for Carl's death, I don't think Angela Kang would make that same mistake and kill off basically the replacement of Carl.
Like, how can you justify because Carl's death, and I said this also in one of my vlogs too, Carl's death was pretty low key. He got bit, okay, but he suicided off camera. Like you see Rick and Michonne crying about it, and then you hear the silencer go off, but you don't see his brains blow out of his head or anything. It's off screen, and then they bury him off screen.
Yeah, seeing it.
Do you really?
Yeah, I don't
Do you
think the
really
show would do
think
that with the kid. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking. We're not only just talking about killing a kid. We're talking about cutting his head off and putting it on a piece of wood. Like that is gruesome. And it works for adult characters, older characters, some characters that we've known, but characters that are older in that sense that it would still be traumatic, but like there's something about killing like he's not even of age. He's not even 18. Like it's like killing someone like that young and doing that, just it's unnecessarily cruel, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think Ezekiel is, because obviously that happened in the comics with Ezekiel, but I think it's one of those deaths that just has to happen. Like it's like Glenn's death. It's one of those ones I know it already happened in the comics, but like it could seem predictable because of that reason. But it's one of those ones that I feel like just has to happen. Like the whole thing that happens with the kingdom afterwards. Obviously losing your king and stuff like that. And
yeah. Jerry can become the new king.
I'd be fine with that. I really don't think.
He was making me laugh in that recent episode.
Yeah.
I'm pro Jerry. Yeah.
I don't. People have been saying they think he's gonna get the Pikes, but I really don't. I think he's just he's too much of a comedic value to this show. He's like everyone loves him. I just don't think they'd get rid of that. And if they're gonna get rid of King Ezekiel, they're not gonna get rid of Jerry too.
It's gonna be one or the other. It's either gonna be Ezekiel or Jerry. Like that would make sense in terms of killing your kingdom cast. Like that would make sense. And then you have other options. You have Alden and Luke just escaped this most recent episode, but I feel like one of them is going to get one person from Yumiko and Connie's group, that whole group. One of them is going to get it. I don't know who, but I feel like at least one person will.
I feel like it might be Luke, just because that's what happened in the comics, obviously. But at the same time, I really don't want it to be Luke because that actor is fantastic. He's great.
Yeah, he is. Same thing with Rosita. They're doing the same thing like they did in the comics, building up her pregnancy. She screwed another guy. It's the same thing. It's the same thing where they build up this pregnancy and then they almost do like a Game of Thrones. They kill her while she's pregnant. Like that like if you're gonna do that, like you like don't put a kid on top of it. Like I'm like what the hell is this show coming to? Like,
yo, imagine if they did the dog.
No. Oh yeah, no. That's it. The whole show would have to be canceled. The dog got killed. Nah, that's okay. But that's the same thing with Henry though. The dog is just as new. It's a new character. It's just because 16-year-old Henry is a new character. He's this new teenager trying to learn shit. Before he was just a kid that was always taking instructions. Like back before the time jump, he was just a kid. Learned some stick movements from Morgan, but other than that, like he killed Gavin. He broke out of he had some moments during the All Out War segment, but
I straight up saw a comment. Someone said they think Carl would beat Henry's ass in a fight. Like,
well, Carl has one eye, so that's not possible.
Yeah, that's first of all. Henry's got these sticks. Like he's basically a Jedi at this point. You remember Carl versus Ron? Like they were having a little fight. What was that?
Like a tizzy fit.
You mean to tell me? Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people hated Carl, but I feel like once he died, then everyone jumped trains and now said Carl was the best character. He was the future. Why kill off Carl? All these things. But before that, I feel like everyone hated him.
They didn't know what they were doing with him. Season 7, they did some of his comic stuff where he infiltrated Negan's base. But I'm thinking to myself, remember the season 7 finale when he just straight up shoots all of those junkyard people?
Yeah.
Like he just, it's like, okay, Carl, hey, this is the passive guy that's going to lead us into the new world. It's like that was so pulled out of just thin air. Carl being an advocate for keeping people alive.
Yeah, like they should have done a better job with that. They should have been building that up before, but I just think they didn't know that they were going to do that until like season 8 came up. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, they had the line. He's like, I only want Negan. He killed my friend. That's my best Carl. That's my best
God,
Carl.
I hate that. I feel like he was too old for that.
Nobody else.
Like that whole thing was just, he was too old for it. It's just, that's why it didn't work, I feel like. But I guess you really
that was really true.
About that.
I guess the last point I'll bring up as to why I don't think Henry will get it. Here's one thing to keep in mind about all the Pike victims. The tragic piece about it, at least from the comics perspective, nobody sees it coming. Every single person who has their head beheaded, they just see this bald woman who looks like a traveler just trying to be friendly, and they all die.
Yeah,
so none of them know who the Whispers are. Nobody who gets beheaded in the comics knows who the Whispers are. That's the tragic piece of it. So Henry already knows who they are. He's at their freaking camp in the next episode.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So
you gave me hope today. That's great, because I was honestly like 80% he's going to die, 20% I'm just going to hold on to hope, because Spoiling Dead, they've been wrong in the past, but they've never been so wrong. Like, they've had like little things mixed up here and there. Like I remember they said Rick was going to die. They straight up said he was going to die. And then like a week before it came out, they're like, okay, no, it looks like he's just going to get injured now. He's not going to die.
Well, because they filmed two things for that. They filmed Rick dying, being just devoured on the rebar, and then they filmed him in the helicopter. So what they do, and then they ask their source, and then their source tells them what's going on filming. But because they were doing two, they couldn't figure it out. Now, I will tell you, the most recent information on the Spoiling Dead, like, they have a Tumblr page, because I'm banned from their stupid fucking forum. I go to that Tumblr page, and I've only gone there just to investigate this, because I feel like it'll really ruin a lot of the season if this is true about Henry. And they said that it's unconfirmed. They said that they can't make up their minds. They said it really could go either way. And they said what they know is that he gets injured, but they don't know if he dies. That's where we're going to leave it at. They believe he'll get injured, but they're not sure if he does or does not die. It's literally flipping a coin at this point.
Well, that is the best news I've heard in a while.
And that's why I had that theory about him tragically trying to get to the kingdom, knowing what Alpha's going to do, and then someone's like, no, like, you can't interfere with what's going to happen, and then he like gets injured or something. And that's the other thing. All of the spoilers about Henry and that whole timeline, that bullshit timeline by the Spoiling Dead. Where's Lydia in it?
Yeah,
where is she? Get that. Where is she? Oh, Henry escapes the camp, goes and gets caught on the road. Where is she? He wouldn't leave anywhere without her. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Honestly, I want to make a Pike victim video, like who I think is going to do it, but I'm afraid that there's already spoilers out there that will come back, and then people are just going to start posting that in the comments, so I'm probably not even going to end up doing that. Right now, I honestly think this is what I believe right now. Ezekiel 100%, and Father Gabriel.
Oh.
I think those are going to be the two big ones. But
you don't think he'll get his comic death falling off the tower?
Nah, I don't think they'll do that, honestly. They might do it with another character. I definitely think they would, but I don't know about that. But at the same time, the reason why I'm a little bit iffy on that prediction is because I don't think they would kill two black characters as the two big ones. I really don't think they would, especially because I looked at I read a really interesting piece on the Spoiling Dead forums, which I was there for, researching this Henry thing, and I saw it was about like behind the scenes stuff for past seasons, like in the writer's room, like situations. Like apparently they discussed Andrea's death a lot. Like there was a lot of back and forth in the writer's room about whether or not they should kill off Andrea. And I saw one thing. Denai Guerrero was really pissed off that they kept killing off African American characters. I think it was around like Noah's death, because they had a long streak of just killing off, like they had Bob, Tyrese, Noah all in one season.
Season 5,
she was really pissed about that apparently. So at the same time, I don't know if they're going to kill off, two African Americans.
I think that was just coincidence.
Yeah,
it was really just coincidence, because Tyrese had outlived his comic. Like he was supposed to get beheaded by the governor, and he outlived that. Noah and Bob, they were show exclusives, and I think that's the only kid death that is out as the outlier. Noah getting ripped apart from his mouth by Walker, just unnecessarily like evil and cruel to his death. So that would be the outlier, I guess, for killing kids. But I mean, he was never going to live that long anyway.
Yeah, that's why that baby thing last episode, I was like, everyone was like, oh my god, the baby's going to die. I was like, no, they're not going to kill off a baby, have a baby get devoured by walkers. They're not going to do that.
Well, I pieced it together once Connie was in the cornfield. I said, okay, if she's there, like they got to be leaving her out there for something. And then sure enough, it was to save the kids. So I was like, oh shit. And what a great sequence that was. I talked about that with you. My god, like being able to experience how someone with lack of hearing would have to deal with that situation. Wow, that was absolutely incredible. Yeah. That's interesting about those spoiling. I can't access their forums because I'm banned from their site, which whatever, I don't care. But I don't know. It's frustrating though. It is, because you and I, like, we try to do this thing. We have people that like our content, and it it's just unnecessary. It, like, why do I saw someone argue this? I guess we could end on this. I saw someone argue, "Oh, I need the spoilers because, like, I have anxiety and, like, I don't like not knowing, like, what's gonna happen." It's like, dude, like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be watching a show like this that's drama oriented. Like, you can't deal with the anxiety of not knowing what. Like, how do you go into movies? Like Avengers Infinity War or whatever. Like, how do you go into movies and watch? Like, do you look up fucking spoilers for that too?
The anxiety is probably the best part about watching these, like, shows.
Right, like,
That's the exciting part, is not knowing what the hell is about to happen. So yeah, spoilers, they're impossible to avoid. To be honest, but I don't think they're going away anytime soon. To be honest, I think the show is doing a better job. If this whole thing's true and they made it just seem like Henry died and that's not actually the case, then they're doing a better job at trying to avoid these things. But they usually get very accurate spoilers like a few days before every episode because of people who obviously see the episode early. So
are you going to look for 15? That would be the one to do it for, because apparently that's when the pikes happen, and then 16 is the aftermath, and there's, like, snow, I guess. It's going to be winter, finally. I guess winter's coming.
I'm so excited for that. Even the synopsis, it says there's literally going to be a blizzard. So that's exciting.
How do the Whisperers survive that? Just right now, how do they don't have shelter. They live in the woods. How do they survive a blizzard?
That's what I'm really interested to see. I'm not going to lie. I wonder what's even going to happen in the finale, because the finale you have to have something big happen, but if the pikes happen before, like, it's just going to be everyone, like, sad in the finale, but I don't know if that's...
And this isn't even spoilers. Look at the synopsises that the AMC released. Episode 16 says, after an overwhelming loss, the group has to deal with a blizzard. So we know that the loss is in 15.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad it's not like a cliffhanger, like the final scene. That's what I always assumed, that the season 9 finale would be Daryl or somebody coming, like, just like in the comics where Rick comes across the pikes and he's just like open mouthed, because that's how the comic issue ends. They see it and they're like, what? And then it's like, dun dun dun. And then I imagine, like, wait till season 10 to see how things.
Yeah, no.
Like,
after the backlash of the Negan thing, they're never gonna do a cliffhanger like that again. I can guarantee that. Even though they got a lot of ratings for the season 7 premiere because of that cliffhanger, I still don't think they'll do it again.
Yeah, it was a 1-episode thing, and it also garnered a lot of talk. Like, everyone was like, "Oh, who did Negan kill?"
It did. Like, at that time, I absolutely hated it, but after I saw the episode, I was like, okay, that was worth it. But at the same time, I personally would rather them not done it. But I did like the promotional stuff, how it was like, having like that big image of just Negan with the bat and all the people lined up, and it was all... If you didn't have spoilers, I feel like it would have been a lot more exciting, because it was spoiled for basically everyone, let's be real here. Unless you weren't on social media, but for the majority of people it was spoiled. Even Chris Hardwick literally said he, like, something about him believing it was going to be Glenn and Abraham, and then one of the Walking Dead producers, like, retweeted his post or something, which I don't get why that would happen, but I don't know. So yeah,
whatever.
That's
Chris Hardwick is like the flagship guy for the series anyway. Like, he's like the talking guy. He's like the ultimate fan. He's the super delegate fan.
Yeah, so I always wonder regarding a lot of these things and a lot of these choices, like, how different would the show be if it never was affected by, like, outside things like actors wanting to leave, or if they just were able to write the story exactly the way they want to without any actor situations or legal issues. Like, how different would the show be?
Well, apparently, Andrew Lincoln leaving the show, that was discussed back in season 4 or 5. I don't know if you know that. Yeah. And honestly, I think, like, I was very like, oh my God, the sky is falling now that Rick is leaving the show. But what would he be doing right now? Because he doesn't have the reason the Whisperer storyline worked was because his son was involved romantically with the daughter of the villain. Mm-hmm. It was literally like a Romeo and Juliet, where it's like two rival families and their kids are, together, and they have to fucking figure out how to coexist. But in the show, his son's gone. So what would Rick be doing, is my question.
That's why I still believe Carl's death was also part of Andrew Lincoln wanted to leave. Like, they knew the future. They knew Rick was leaving. I think if Rick wasn't leaving and didn't decide it, I think they would have kept Carl alive, honestly.
Hmm. Yeah, it's tough, and I like that Angela Kang has given a storyline for all this. There's the X's. There's a reason why Maggie left. There's a reason why
Yeah.
all the communities are divided. Like it's this new plot line. But the thing is, I like it because the show has always they've always remixed the comics. They've never done it exactly, you know, blank by like storyboard by storyboard. They never did that, and I think they didn't just take the losses of the actors and the characters on the chin. They said, we're going to make new storylines from this. We're going to make interesting, because this has been hanging, just as the whispers are hanging over my head. This X's mystery, like what happened between these, like Maggie and Michonne have known each other since season 3. Like what happened between them that divided these communities so greatly?
The thing
Like,
I need to answer on like right now is what the hell happened to Oceanside and like a lot of the saviors, like not the saviors because we saw them already in episode 6, so like the leftover, the bad saviors, the one like Jed and Regina and all those
yeah, they all
people.
got burned
But
alive.
what
Yeah.
happened to like Negan's wives, like Amber and Frankie, I think was her name. There were a couple of them. Like, what the hell happened to them? I thought they just became part of the communities or something.
They all immersed into different, like Laura, the savior Laura, the
Yeah,
one
yeah,
who like
Laura's
ratted
there. I
Dwight
saw
up.
her.
Yeah, she's on the council in Alexandria.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Alden is like girlfriends with Enid. So like that's interesting. Like the saviors don't exist anymore. They're all mingled into the communities that they once ruled over.
Which is very different than the comics, so I found that interesting because the comics they kind of had at least some of the saviors still there, and they kind of had their own little group, and that kind of came into play later on in the Whisperer War.
But it takes away, for me, that takes away Negan breaking out, because when Negan broke out of prison in the mid-season finale, I said, "What's he gonna do?"
Yeah, there's no
In the
saviors left.
show, in the comic, it was worse because the saviors were still a thing, and there was a real potential that Negan could just go back there and take over and cause problems. But Negan went back in the mid-season premiere and was like, okay, there's absolutely nothing here. And he even said to Judith, I'm going back to my cell. I realize there's nothing out here. So what's his reasoning for wanting to get out of jail? Like his whole comic thing with Alpha and Beta, some of the funniest written material ever. Like his
100%. Yeah.
conversations with Beta and Alpha, I was rolling on the floor. They're so funny. They're so funny. I can just imagine him going to the Whisper camp and doing his like whistle, like the Savior's whistle, and they all come out like him.
I don't know what they're gonna do with him because in the comics they had that kid who was like the kid that fought Carl or whatever.
He
Like
hated
let
Rick
Negan
and
out.
took him out
Yeah.
of the bench. Yeah,
But you
yeah,
don't
yeah,
have that
yeah.
in this show, so how is he gonna like escape again? Like how are they gonna? Like I 100% do not think Michonne would just be like, all right, yeah, I'll let you out. Like I just don't see
Judith
that
might.
happening. Judith, that's possible, yeah.
But Negan's in the next episode. He was in some preview images, so we will see him in episode 12. So
Yeah, they're gonna have interesting talks.
also Greg Nicotero's directing this one, and for I don't know what it is about episode 12s, but I'd say other than season 7, they've been the best. Like
Yeah,
episode 12 of season 8, like that Rick Negan chase with Flaming Lucille, and then season 6 was the satellite station war, like that first confrontation with the saviors and the fighting.
yeah. Season 12, episode 12, episode 13. They're usually like really good. I have a lot of hope for this episode. People who've seen it early, like a couple people on Twitter who have seen it early, they've been saying great things about it. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be my favorite this half season so far. I can just tell by the previews. I can tell by these early reviews. I don't know about the favorite this season though. That Rick's final episode is still like up there. So
Yeah, it's hard to
that's
beat
hard
that.
to beat that one.
Hard to beat that. So
Even the mid-season finale was fantastic.
yeah, oh yeah, the Whisper dodging with G. I mean, I think it was just the right thing to get people back into the fun of the show, being excited. You had a lot of things going into that. You had Negan breaking out. You had the Whisper threat. You had this X's weird thing going on. So we'll see. Yeah.
All right, so I think that just about does it. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed. I have a few things coming up. Like I will be recording a reaction for this upcoming episode 12. I do that every now and then. Any of the bigger episodes that I feel like are going to be good, I like to record a reaction. So I'll probably do that for this one. So anything you want to say to finish it off?
No, I mean, other than the fact that I'll be doing more vlogs. I might just do a reaction video to episode 12 because I used to do like reaction videos for The Walking Dead. Well, I did vlogs, then I did reactions. Now I'm back to vlogs. So I took a hiatus from the reactions just because copyright things and people wanted to see the full
so
episode.
annoying, I know, the
Yeah, people
copyright.
also wanted to see the full episode. They're like, put up the full episode. It's like, all right, this isn't the Pirate Bay, guys. So but I might do one, but I might chop it up because if what you say is true and this is going to be a big one, Greg Nicotero, I might just do it. You never know. But yeah, it was cool to do this. Just me personally, I'm trying to get more involved with the Walking Dead community and do these kind of things. And you had very like-minded opinion, and we're both very passionate about this topic. And I hope we come out winners by the end of the season. Maybe we'll do like a part 2 to this, where we're either really happy or really pissed off. So let's do to be continued on this.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd love to do that. I after what you said about the whole thing that you heard from Spoiling Dead, I now have a lot more hope that he's gonna survive this. So I'm happy. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys on my next one. Peace out.
See you.